Hello everyone and welcome back to another session of Dark Souls 3 PvP and another weapon showcase. This time we are using the Lothric War Banner, a pike class weapon that was added in the Ringed City DLC. One of two spear-like weapons, this is easily the more overlooked one, just because it doesn't look as glowy and fancy as the other, and honestly it's not as good as the other, but this weapon does have a time and a place, and we'll get into the details on that a little bit down the line. Getting started though, the basics of the weapon. This weapon requires 14 strength and 14 dexterity in order to wield. It has a double C scaling, and it, when infused with refined, has a double B scaling, which is pretty decent. The physical base damage of the weapon is 200, and the weapon skill is, well, Lothric War Banner. They didn't really feel like being creative when naming the weapon's skill, so yeah, that's a thing. Very original. Good job, FromSoft. It is what it is. Now, as far as what the weapon skill does, think Channeler's Trident. You wave the weapon around, and it buffs everyone who is under it. So, it's actually a pretty decent buff. It's going to increase your attack rating by roughly 15%, which is decent, and it lasts a long while. And because it also has the ability to buff your allies, this weapon is going to be primarily used in two situations, ganking and for co-op. Which, you know, they go hand in hand. It is what it is. So, as far as the pros of the weapon, it's a spear. It's technically a pike, but moveset-wise, it is a spear. It doesn't have any pike attacks at all, for that matter. So, you know, it's not going to have the typical pike issues where a lot of hits are multi-hit. It's just very straightforward, literally, because you have no attacks that sweep. It's all linear. It all goes straight forward, nothing but. So, that I would say is probably the biggest con of the weapon, actually. You don't have anything in the way of variety. You have different speeds for your attacks, but that's about all you got. That said, even with some different speeds, you can do some good work on the attacks, but it isn't always enough. But, anyway. As far as the other pros, as far as a little more information on the weapon buff itself. So, swapping off the weapon will end the buff, and you cannot use weapon buffs and the weapon art together. It just doesn't work. One will override the other, which is a little unfortunate, but I can see why they did it. And honestly, I would say in most cases you're better off doing the 15% buff, simply because it's pure physical damage, it seems, as opposed to using a resin which would possibly give you a higher attack rating, but split the damage types. So, hard to say which would be better in all honesty. But if I had to venture a guess, I would say the weapon art. The reason being, the weapon art itself will also stack with personal buffs, so things like Sacred Oath. And that's actually incredibly useful, as you guys can surely imagine. Now, one thing I'm not aware of, and I haven't had the opportunity to check, is if you have multiple people who are using this weapon, if the buffs will stack with each other. I doubt that would be the case. I hope that's not the case. But if it is, that's kind of broken, to say the very least. So, that's that. Now, as far as the cons, like I was saying, linear attacks, nothing but. Very straightforward in that regard. And you don't have much of a variety in your moveset because of that. You do have the different timings, like I had mentioned previously. And that can help out. It helped out a lot on this guy right here. It helped me out a lot. But, even still, he was just a fraction of a second off on getting those parries. If the latency was not in my favor, he would have had it. I can pretty much guarantee that. The only other con to the weapon that I can really think of is that the weapon art itself takes forever to actually apply itself. It's really, really, really slow. I'm not the biggest fan of that. That said, overall, it's actually not a bad weapon. Damage-wise, it falls pretty much right in the middle of spear damage. So, I can't really complain about it in all honesty. It's got good reach, it's an okay-ish moveset, it's a spear. It is what it is. So, that's really all I've got for this, guys. There's one fight left following this. It's about to start up any second now. I hope you guys have enjoyed the video up until this point. As far as the next showcase, I have yet to determine what weapon I'm going to be doing, although I'm leaning towards the Split-Leaf Greatsword. But I might go back and revisit the Grand Lance. It's hard to say. The Grand Lance was buffed with a patch, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what I feel like doing. But anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this one. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next time.